Hey, Jenna.
Hi, Brenna.
Welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
So we're going to talk about, well, it is the season of Christmas, so the holidays, all of that. So we're going to talk about that today. Catch up. We haven't seen you in a while.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, how have you been?
Pretty good. Very busy, just like everybody else, doing all the things in the community. So
Yeah, I've been so busy. I feel like I'm going to barf sometimes. I hate this. I love this time of year, but I hate this time of year because it seems like, well, it just is a lot of service that I do for others in the Christmas season.
yeah, me too. I have to agree. There's a lot. It builds up to this. It's exciting, Probably about June or July, I'm really excited to go out there and do the things. And then when we finally get to this part where all the things we've been doing build up for the final crescendo, it's like you have to push through. It feels like there's no more energy. You need another you to get it all done sometimes.
Absolutely. Yeah. I wish there were two me's, or at least like what is that, like Hindu goddess with like the 6 arms? Like one's
yes.
typing and doing my work while I'm like the other one's like making dinner.
Sometimes it feels like we're doing that too, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. Yeah, it does. It feels so busy, and I wish I could have a little help. I actually called. Okay, update. I called and I was gonna get a maid because you saw my house. You walked in and you were like,
I thought it looked fine.
Everything was everywhere. Everything is everywhere. Everything is dirty. There's dust everywhere. Things need to be cleaned. I actually called a maid because I was going to get one. And she's like, yeah, or whoever it was that was texting me really enthusiastic about coming and helping. And then was going to get back to me with some dates and some quotes and never heard from them again.
That's odd. That seems to be something, it's interesting you mentioned that because I've seen that a lot in a bunch of different industries. I had a pipe burst and I needed a plumber. And I had a local plumber come out. He sized everything, gave me a quote, said he'd be back the next day and never showed up.
Oh, wow. Oh,
I had to fix it myself.
Did you?
I did. Well, not by myself. I had help, but.
I love that. Yeah. I'm actually not surprised that you had help and did it yourself, but yeah. I do feel like that is my karma, to just do everything myself, clean it all myself, fix it all myself, remodel it all myself. I have control issues, maybe? I don't know.
I've had some people come to me and tell me about, different ways to organize yourself. And they always say, if there's someone who can do your job and you can afford to pay them for it, your time's valuable, put it into something else. But also, some of us just don't realize how cleansing and peaceful it is to clean in the holiday season. One of the things that I've learned is that for me personally, when I'm cleaning, I'm de-stressing.
Yes, I am too. I am absolutely distressing when I'm cleaning. And I put my headphones on because everybody in my house has a room. My kids have their own rooms. My husband has like 2 rooms. I have no room. I have my headphones and the whole house is my room, I guess. But it's like my mom's headphones are on. Leave her alone. She's busy doing the things. So that's like my space, my own space. So I can't say I hate cleaning, but I do need it to be, again, back to the control thing. It has to be done a certain way, and so I can't just like pick up on a Thursday. It has to be cleaned specifically this way, so everything just lays there piling on the hoarder style until I can get to the doing it my way. Like my perfect clean, yeah. So
no, I think a lot of us have gone through that, especially if you're a mom, because you also know your tribe, right? And when the more people you have in your tribe, they all have their own little habits. Mm-hmm. And sometimes they're not in alignment with your cleaning schedule. So first of all, I'd like to say awesome of you to go and even outsource something that you like to have control over to begin with. But you're right. Maybe right now it is up to you to do it. And that's not a fun thing to hear when you're going through so much at once and, you have a full schedule. But
I was really excited. She was very enthusiastic, or at least, or I don't even know if it was a she, but whoever was texting, very, very, very enthusiastic. And I was very excited. I'm like, this is the moment. I'm going to let go of control. Felt it. And then they never got back to me. And then I was thinking about texting him back, like, hey, what about my house? But then I got a vibe. I'm like, well, if I have to chase them down to come and clean my house and do even an estimate, they probably aren't the cleaner for me.
Fair. And, I think that's just in general, right now I think we're all being tested in our work. What's our quality look like? And it doesn't matter if it's someone who you're trying to hire or someone trying to hire you. I feel like integrity is something we're going to be seeing a lot more of in people we want to work with. And we're also going to notice when it's absent in people that we would like to hire. I'm seeing a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of us in this time have that issue with control in different ways. For instance, I'm learning to take a step back from doing all the things. I've worked very hard all year. And when I looked around my house, I had a similar issue where my house wasn't tidy at all. Everything was in the weirdest places. And if you're a mom with kids, I'm sure you know what it's like to go sit at your living room table and be like, why is there a brush on the table? That's disgusting.
Or a sock, or like,
Yeah.
I mean, why is that dog toy on the table? Like, something gross, too. It's usually my kids I'm like, you guys don't know about germs, or what are you doing right now with your socks and shoes on my table?
Right, like that's not okay. And for my kids, it's usually something really odd, out of place, where I'll call them in and say, tell me your thought process here. Why is your toothbrush on the counter in a candle? Why? Like, what brought this here?
There is something about having kids, though, like with the little chaos that they create. My husband hates it. He's like, oh, why is the toothbrush here, like you're saying? Why is it on the counter? And me, I'm just like, it's our little, like, it's like living with little squirrels.
It really is.
Little squirrel messes everywhere.
Well, I think that's one of the things as a mom I had to learn to accept if I wanted to be happy and in peace, was this house is going to be trashed. It's going to be. I can clean it up. I can make it neat and nice as long as I accept reality that by this time next week, it's going to look like I've done nothing.
Like you're going crazy sometimes, doing over and over. But yeah, the holidays are hard. That's actually our topic for today. We're going to get into that a little later, about like what happens, the vibe, the beauty of it all, but like the stress and all of the things for Christmas. How is like other parts of your holidays? I always feel like it kicks off with the October Halloween vibes and the spooky season, and then the Thanksgiving and everything. How's that been?
Well, for me, spooky season is very transformative. I'm probably the lowest in my, vibration and frequency in that time, because I'm really going inward and trying to figure out where this year has brought me. What part of this do I need to look at where I need more growth and more change? And a lot of times I get to see myself through others and where that change really needs to happen. And it's not flattering. It can be pretty humbling to see how much work I still have to do. And sometimes it can be exciting. So this year was very different for me. I think it was just a lot of change, beautiful change. But the holidays weren't bad. They were peaceful. But it was interesting that I didn't have that same panic that I had last year. So normally when I have all this to do, I'm so focused on making it perfect and everyone enjoying the situation. And this is the first year I've ever had where I didn't really care about any of that. I was like, we're going to eat when we eat. We're all going to look however we're going to look, and we're just going to roll with it and see, we're together. What else do we want? And I wouldn't say it was a picture perfect type of, meal, but we had so much more fun. And it was less stuffy. And I, for one, was less stressed. So I kind of liked that.
Less stress on the holidays is really nice. I kind of feel bad because we went on a vacation and my aunt was going to do the Thanksgiving and all of that stuff. So she did, and we didn't really lift a finger for any of that. But we had a great time on vacation. And I was like, this is kind of weird. I feel like somebody else is in control of the vibes, the food, and all of that stuff. So that was really nice, though. My kids were very happy. They called it like the top 3 of our vacation. So I didn't want to come back. I didn't want to come back to work. There was all kinds of drama, like lots of work to do. And so I'm working through that. That's it.
That's got to be rough when you have such a wonderful time, and it's like it reminds you where your heart and your soul and your why are. And then you have to come back to the thick of it, and it's the woman's war, right? The woman's battle to go from spending full time with her family, which is our oasis naturally, to going back into the workforce, going back against the grain, and, just kind of going into our own sort of battlefield, if you will, and learning to live in a world that, we have to adapt to a lot of the time.
Yeah.
You're my hero.
No, I'm coming to just accept that I am a free bird.
Yes.
That I give probably more than 40 hours of my week to people who pay me to be a free bird. I'm in my bird phase. That's what I realized while I was on my vacation. I've lived my life. I've made my mistakes. I've bred. I've had kids. Like, I'm done breeding. And now I'm just like with my soul open, my arms open. Whatever's gonna come is gonna come. And I'm calling it my bird phase.
Your
like,
free
I'm just
bird.
Free bird phase. Yes. We still have to work, so that kind of sucks about it. But I'm in my free bird phase. Yeah.
So you're chasing your why.
I don't even know if I'm chasing it anymore. I'm like almost like Buddha under the tree, just like if it falls into my hand, there we go. Because I just love what I do. I love hanging out with you. I love the beginning of this podcast. I love what we're doing here. I love people to a certain degree. I'm finding the balance between being an introvert and all of that stuff. So yeah, I'm just really not chasing anything. I feel like the things that I've always wanted in life that I've chased, I've never been able to get. And I don't know if that's just a me thing, because I hear other people like, oh, you got to get up in the morning and go get after it, right? When I get up like that and I go get after it, it's like it runs away from me. I don't know if it's a me thing, like I said.
No, it's a female thing. Men are meant to chase and go, 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 but we are meant to receive.
Really? Okay,
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way, but that makes sense.
Yeah, if you look at it in an energetic sense, not a gender sense, please. Energetically, the masculine energy is go get 'em energy. They have to seek out. That's why they're the hunters, the gatherers, right? And so when it comes to feminine energy, we're supposed to be open to receive. Now, that doesn't mean we don't also have masculine energy and there aren't times to go, go, go. But that's planting seeds, right? If you look at it from a garden perspective, the masculine part is planting seeds, hoeing the garden, pulling out the weeds. The feminine part is the waiting part. When we water, sing to the plants, spend time just allowing.
Just being, yes, and like being patient while it grows. Okay.
So you're in your feminine energy, as you say, the bird energy, which is beautiful. And I think that's something I'm learning to be in myself. I'm the go, go, go energy. I like to be doing something all the time.
Yeah.
And it's not because I enjoy being and doing, it's because there's just so much to be done that I feel, okay, I need to do this and I need to do that. But in the fall, as we go into winter now, I think we're all being called to kind of go within, at least on this side of the world.
Yeah, I agree. I think that is the time this is the perfect season for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, this should be the time where we're slowing down. Where we're looking at everything. And, if you're working in a corporate world, they don't believe in that. We're in the fourth quarter. This is go time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're just beginning the first quarter of the new year now. So you know what that means? That means they don't want you to slow down. They want you to begin again.
Strong first quarter. Yeah.
And so what I've had to learn is boundaries, right? That's a big boundary thing, and it's scary when you're like, oh, but everyone else is going to be go-getters. Maybe they are. But maybe what you need is to slow down. So that's what I'm doing with you. You're in that energy of what comes, and I'm learning to slow down and get there. So I'm right behind you in that.
Well, this podcast has really helped me. Just thinking about what to say, thinking about what to do, getting all of the things set up so that we can actually have a product, because this is a model. It's a framework for everything that I do. When I chase things, I think I make my schedule too busy, too many things to do. It's like, oh, we can't get a time to schedule. We can't schedule a time to do the podcast because I have all this to do before I do that. And so I've been realizing that some of that busy work is really like a avoidance technique.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Avoiding like what really I want to do. And if I'm too busy to do it, then the time is passing by and then I'm not doing it. And it's like a protective factor.
Oh, I hate that you said that because it's so true. And I do that with my writing a lot. I have a story that I've been working on for a while, and whenever I go to write on it, I avoid it. I will say, oh, but the laundry needs to be done. I can't possibly sit down and do this till I know the laundry's done.
Yep.
And I believe it when I say that. I really do.
That is so familiar, though. I'm sure many people feel that way.
Yes, where you're like, no, I can't do what I want because the house is not clean. Or, you know what, I should probably get back to that person at work before I do it. And it's avoidance. That's what it is. There's no more sugarcoating it. And why do we put ourselves on the back burner?
I don't know.
This is our time.
And then seasons like this come around, and I'm like, oh, I feel so terrible because it's time to, like, do the New Year's resolutions and lose the weight. And I'm, like, behind on all the things I wanted to do this year. Though, so bird phase. That's why I'm just doing things different. I've been doing everything different, just living in the moment.
I love it. And I love that you're doing that at this time of year because we're at the end of 2024 coming into 2025, and it's going to be a very interesting year for everybody.
We just rounded the first quarter of the century.
Right. And this is an intense one, especially if you're someone who follows astrology. We will not get into that here, but there's a lot going on. And, it's also the year of the snake, as they say. So it's transformative energy, complete changes. Some people are going to look back at this time right now, this year in 2024, and they're going to say, my life's completely different by 2025. And that's possible every year, but this year I think is going to be so dramatic in its changes for people all around the world that it's meant for us. We need these changes that are coming. But it all begins with us, our personal little worlds, not how we're connected in the collective, but also in ourselves. How do we want to show up in the next year? And not in a resolution sense, like vanity, like weight, and etc.
Yeah.
But I mean, how do we want to feel about everyday life? Can we find contentment no matter what it looks like?
I think I'm going to do a vision board this year. I did one last year. And it's actually tucked away over there, so it's not even on the wall. Like, you're supposed to have it up so that the vision comes through. So it's tucked away. But I'm gonna redo that board this year because I was looking at it the other day, and even though it was tucked away in the corner, so much stuff on that board has come to fruition this year. Like, incredibly weird stuff that I was putting it on the board at the time, thinking, oh, this is decades down the road. We're not gonna get this done this year. And then I'm looking at the board the other day because I was feeling bad about it being tucked in the corner, and I was like, wow, this is really powerful, tucked in the corner, not even up on the wall, and I can see 3 things I could just knock off and change around in this board, and weight wasn't one of them, so we'll do that next year or something. But there was a lot of other really important stuff.
You look amazing, by the way. Let's just call it what it is. You're fabulous.
I mean, you know what? I'm recontextualizing that too, so I'm not even going to put that in there that way. I'm focused on health.
Yes, health is something that I'm focused on as well. I'm glad that we're both on that same track because I have inflammation this time of year. And I love ginger water. I love it so much. Ginger and lemon, boiling that together and putting it in my water in the morning helps so much with that inflammation. And I have to decrease my coffee intake, which I'll be really honest with y'all. I love coffee so much. It's a staple in my diet. What can I say? And when I say that, it's unhealthy. Okay, I'm talking 8 cups a day in the morning. And then that's not even including my afternoon coffee. So
I think I have a lot, I don't drink, I don't smoke, but coffee is I'll drink a cup in the afternoon and be laying awake at 1 o'clock in the morning, damn, that afternoon cup of coffee. But I love it so much because it's so comforting, and I get so tired during the day, and it tastes so good, creamy, sweet. Yeah.
I love coffee. I think that's one of the things that I'm just not ready to get rid of yet.
Yeah.
But it's
hard.
funny because I had someone offer me, they saw how much coffee I was drinking, so they went out of their way to buy me these mints. And they're all, hey, these are caffeine mints. These will help you get rid of your addiction to coffee. You don't need as much. And I'm like, oh, great. So I took 3 of them. You're not supposed to do that, by the way. And it didn't do anything. I'm like, I'm sorry. And they're like, you need to stop drinking coffee for a while. So I'm kind of on a bit of a fast today, and it's fine so far.
So the interesting thing about coffee is I just really love the creamy warm in my cup. It can be in the middle of summer and I'm drinking a cup of hot coffee in the hottest part of the day because I just love the creamy warmth that it brings me. And yeah, I mean, maybe if that's a substitution thing, if there's something there that can bring me that, like, but tea doesn't do it because it's too watery. It's not like, it doesn't have that like viscosity that coffee does.
I love that you say that. That actually helps me understand why tea doesn't do it for me. But you're right, it's also a texture thing. Tea just has a more water feel to it than coffee.
Yeah, it does.
You know, I can help myself by having my son make it because he makes it like tar.
Oh,
That's terrible. And, you know, I
that's
tease
my
him
favorite
about
kind
it.
of coffee. Or like, yeah, so like if you can make it a tea, do that, and then yeah.
Yeah, well, it's just so thick sometimes where you can like, you know, you can almost taste the grinds. You're like, yeah, that's, but he's learning.
Yeah,
He does everything else pretty awesome. It's okay if you can't make coffee.
that's all right. Yeah. What about current events? What's going on? What's got your eye out there?
You know, one thing I've noticed a lot locally, you know, is that a lot of businesses are starting to come together and create community in a way I have never seen before. I think that's pretty great here in New Mexico.
Yeah, definitely.
I
I don't
was-
get out there that much, but when I do, I'm always really grateful for my friends or local business owners for having events. And I'm like, oh, this makes me feel like I need to get out more, even though I don't get out hiding in my house all the time.
It's hard to connect with business owners, I think, if you're not out in the community, because before my job, which, you know, puts me in those positions, I didn't ever really know, you know, I had my friends who owned businesses, but I didn't know the community as a whole. But working with the Hispano Chamber and volunteering, I was able to see just how beautiful it is when a bunch of business owners, regardless of where they stand in the community, came together to welcome new members and, you know, do call their friends and say, hey, we all need to be in the same network. And, you know, the way they came together to make that happen, I thought was pretty impressive. And if that had been the only situation I'd seen it, I would have thought, oh, well, it's just the Hispano Chamber. But I also did participate in the teddy bear and blanket drive we did for our first responders.
Oh, cute. I love that. They give them out to the kids, right? Or the families and
Yeah.
things. Yeah. Okay.
It's so powerful. Let me tell you, what they do with them is they give them to them in a time where they're in their most traumatic sense. So if they are, you know, in a fire or in a domestic violence situation and they have to be taken out of their house and they're scared, you know, the police officers have these in their trunk and, you know, they have them in their cars to give them something that's just there, something beautiful.
Yeah. Warm,
And
cozy.
I'll make sure that we have this somewhere online when
Yeah,
we do this,
we
but I
can put it
have
in the description
pictures.
box.
Yeah, I have pictures where you can just see how many we were able to gather. And, you know, this came from going to every business I could, you know, going door to door saying, hey, would you put a box in front? And would you be willing to participate in being a drop location? And you'd be surprised at how many people went out of their way to incentivize people to donate. I had a insurance man offer a vacation to whichever location of a local brewery raised the most to that GM, and so that was fun. I had a cannabis shop who even offered 10% off of their products for everyone who brought in a teddy bear or blanket. And, you know, it's a medicinal shop, so it was just so powerful to see these people who took time and sometimes even out of their own pocket to just get people to give back.
Yeah. I kept this to myself because obviously I don't have like any evidence-based information behind this. But when I worked in child welfare, I always wondered what it would be like to have like a big bear cuddle session. Like you know how, because we love the mascots at baseball games. We love them in like Chuck E. Cheese and all that stuff. But have like this big bear time where you just have bears all over the room and a big bear that comes out and cuddles with kids. Because if you think about kids in traumatic situations or being taken from their homes, like from the police and stuff like that, they're not getting that oxytocin, which is really foundational for there is some evidence behind this that if you have oxytocin running through your body, it is protecting you from a lot of the health hazards that can come later on down in life, like heart disease and you know, just a lot of different things, vascular stuff, which I think is still heart disease, but it's just a lot of things that can happen to your body physiologically without oxytocin. And that's not even touching on like emotional wellness and like mental health wellness. So I always had this vision of having like a teddy bear session like once a
Yes.
month, but I don't know.
That sounds fun to me, but you're not wrong when they talk about what that does when they have something to hold. Is it makes them feel safe for a moment. And some of these, I've actually have someone in my influence who was a recipient of those stuffed animals when they had to go to court when they were a child, and they were basically figuring out what they were going to do with them. And this person told me that having those really made the difference for them whenever they went from place to place. So when I saw them, of course, I'm a big crybaby. I just start hugging all the first responders and thanking them, because I realized that as many as we received, they all stay here in New Mexico, but the reality is they're also going to need more next year. And even though we had a tremendous amount, I doubt that's enough.
Yeah, unfortunately. But it's still good. That's beautiful. That makes my current events really lame. I was going to talk about like Bennifer, and I've been dreaming about
Jennifer and Ben Affleck.
Yes, I've been dreaming about them a lot lately. I don't know why. And then I'll like read articles and stuff. I think their story is really interesting. I guess it is connected to love in a kind of a way, but I'm like 20 years go by after dating somebody, both have families, and then they get back together, and then they split up. I'm like, rip my heart out, why don't you?
Right.
And I can't even imagine what it's like to be them, but I don't know, I've been dreaming about them a lot.
Well, if you look at it from an outsider's perspective, because we have no information behind closed doors, right? Like, we don't get to know the real reasons why they chose this, that, and the other. But I think they're a great example to us, at least from what we can see. What happens when that love for someone, continues on, however the initial karmic tie that you had, the initial problems you had were not resolved or taken care of. You're just so happy to be with each other again. You're sweeping it under the rug and pretending it's not there. And who am I to say whether or not that's true in their situation, but it's observed from the outside that it looks like that. It looks like the same insecurities were there, the same problems that were there the first time were still there. And though the love was powerful and present, it wasn't enough to resolve the issues that needed to be resolved. That has to be done first, and it requires both people surrendering things that they don't want to. It's surrendering independence.
Yeah, I don't know. I was like I was really excited when they got back together. It
Me
was
too.
like a big thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, because they always looked really cute together. I love them. I mean, obviously they're movie stars, so they're fit, beautiful, handsome, whatever.
Yes.
But also just kind of like the way they look together. It's totally what's
Perfect.
that? Vanity or whatever.
Yes. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, good match.
And if you look at it for me, I mean, Jennifer Lopez is obviously a Leo, right? And
oh, is she? I didn't know that.
She is.
Okay.
And so, for Leos right now, we're not doing too good in the spotlight. Mars retrograde in Leo kind of makes us undesirable to people.
Really? Well, that's interesting.
So-
I didn't know that about her. Well, no, I guess I've been dreaming about them a lot lately, so I don't know what that's about. But, like, in my dream, I'm always, like, this overarching therapist of them. Like, love, follow the love, get back together. All the other stuff is BS. Just follow the love. And anyways, I don't even know what that means.
I think it means exactly what you just said. Follow the love. You know what I mean? I think whether it's a celebrity relationship or a relationship in general, we overcomplicate everything.
We do.
And
I do.
I definitely see that in their relationship. Is it feels really complicated no matter what the truth is. It feels like there's a lot of moving parts. And when you look at it from an outside perspective and you aren't in the middle of it, it's like if you love each other, everything else should just kind of fall into place. If you're taking care of your own stuff and you're not putting your stuff on someone else, right? You do you, I do me, and together we kind of support each other through that work and we love each other. That's it. That's the magic solution.
That's the ingredients. It gets complicated, right? Because he seems like he really loves his wife or ex-wife too, the other Jennifer.
Yes, the battle of two Jennys.
Yeah. He's got Jennies. He's got problems.
Yeah.
And they're Jennies.
And I will tell you as a Jenny, that's we're complicated, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all the things.
I cannot. Okay, so empathic to Jen, the other Jen, I don't know, the wife Jenny. They're all wives Jennies because he was married to them both. The the baby mama Jenny. Let's say that one.
Baby
I
mama.
feel I was watching her little documentary where she whips out this box of like letters that Ben had kept for her the whole time he was married, and I was thinking, if Israel had a box of letters for his old flame the whole time we were together,
I'd burn those letters. No, I'm just kidding.
it might not stop at the letters. I'm just saying, you know what so I have empathy for the baby mama Jenny, because throughout their whole, like, they're in a triad. They've been a triad no matter
Yeah.
what they, like, they can't escape their triad.
I think one of the hardest things is when you have a really powerful connection through children. You know, that's a very complicated relationship. Depending on how that ends. If you end with the respect for each other and you want to be the best for the children, sometimes that includes having a friendship. Sometimes that's a companionship, and sometimes that bond does not make sense to others. They just can't handle, they can't hang, and they, I don't know whether it's right or wrong, but I would say that a lot of people that have learned to co-parent in harmony, you bring someone else into there and it can be disruptive because they have their own idea of what a good family looks like and what it should look like. And if they don't believe in blending, then it's not going to be a good situation because there's always this competition for who's the alpha female or male, depending on who the other spouse is. And that should be established before introducing each other.
Yeah, that it's a complicated situation for sure. But I'm dreaming about it, and that's not altruistic like teddy bears and blankets, but that's where my current events have been. I mean, among the other things that have been going on, but maybe it's that one like focusing on because there's been so much going on in the world that I'm just like trying to dissociate from some of that because it's a lot. It's a lot. There's a lot going on out there. I hope you all are well out there.
Yes, lots of love your way.
Yes.
Because I think that kind of brings us so much, it brings it all together with maybe a big reason to dream about people like that is because that's a really big problem plaguing a lot of people right now, is that they are having to let go of people they love so much because they're not healthy for each other. And, you know, the songs have always said sometimes love isn't enough. And it's like, what it means by that is that's not enough to sustain a relationship. It's enough to always care for someone. That's never going to go away. But if you're not willing to also be less selfish, to think of the other person, if you're not willing to be healthy or take responsibility for your own healing and not put your healing on someone else, it's not going to work out. And that's something we're all facing in one way or another. I know I'm learning, being single, you know, how to accept that right now everything's my responsibility, but if I was in a relationship with someone, I'd have to relinquish some of that. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of talk that has to happen, and I can't be afraid to have that talk, right? And if you're in a relationship or not, you have to be willing and feel safe to have those really awkward conversations with, I don't like how things are and I want them to change.
I am the queen of awkward conversations, and I think that's why Israel and I get along so well, because I'll just be talking about awkward stuff, and he's, like, ignoring me, and I'm, like, like a butterfly, like, no, blah, blah, blah. And, yeah, being with Israel, one thing I love about him is, like, it's kind of like being alone, because, yeah, I could just be myself, but also, I know I annoy him sometimes, he annoys me too, but I don't know, there's, like, a level of tolerance that is just like, oh, yeah, it's, like, kind of like being alone, like, you would just tolerate yourself.
Yeah, that's beautiful, though. It's almost like you can just be yourself within your relationship. You can say what you want without that fear of, oh, this might be awkward. And I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
You know, to just be able to be yourself and someone not criticize you or try to tear you apart or psychoanalyze you. Nobody wants that.
There's criticism. There's discord.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, there's always going to be in a relationship. But I think what I mean is some people have that in their relationship, and some people come from a relationship where that's consistently present.
Yeah.
Where they're picking you apart. Maybe you're too chubby, or maybe you're too thin, or maybe you don't articulate correctly. Whatever the case may be, you know, there are some people that would rather tear their mate apart rather than accept them for who they are.
Yeah.
Constantly try and change them type thing.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's, like, worked in our relationship. I haven't really figured that out, but I just really enjoy being with him, and it's kind of like, it feels like the years have flown by, like, my kids are, like I said, I'm done breeding. My kids are almost grown. It's been wild, like, to think that we're just kind of trucking along. So, and I was always one of those people who's like, I will never get married. I will never have kids. I am weird. I'm push people away. But I do have some advice for people out there. This was my grandma's advice. She always said, don't worry about finding somebody. Like, just get it out of your mind. Don't think about it. Don't worry about it. Be yourself, because the right person, you won't be able to push them away, because they will be there. They will be your person, and they will stay no matter what you do, because they will be your person.
Let's take note on that, because
Right?
I can tell you right now, I think I got to that point at the end of November. In fact, it was November 29th, I can say for certainty, that I said, I don't think I care if I ever have a partner or not. I spent a long part of my life trying to be the perfect partner. How can I be the best partner for whoever I'm with when the time comes? So I have to first be that partner to myself. And then something made me say, you know what? I kind of love life the way it is. If it changes, great. If it doesn't, okay. But I'm pretty happy just being me, so.
Oh my gosh, but then, you know what? I just had a revelation. You should be happy being you. You should be happy being you, because your person is going to love you just the way you are. And I think that's where people get in trouble, where they're trying to change their partners and do all of the things that make...
They want a project.
Like the idealistic thing come true, right? But it's like, you should just be you. You should be comfortable being you. And whoever it is that pairs with you is going to love that. Maybe that's what maybe that's why I keep dreaming of Ben and Jen. 20 years of trying to push each other into space, like a space that they're not together. It's like, but there's something attracting them there.
Right, because she's an extrovert and she loves the limelight, and she loves people to have their focus. Hello, Leos, you'd think we love that, but I don't.
But she's so beautiful there. She does it so well. Shouldn't she be there? Shouldn't she have that for herself? Yeah, right?
But he's an introvert, and he doesn't like that. And so shouldn't he be allowed to have that too?
He should be. He really should be.
It shouldn't be. So here's why I think it's so hard for celebrity couples, though, is because I would bet that both of them are fine with the way each other are, and they probably love each other that way. But because her career demands he's always present, there's pressure to always be happy together in public. And one thing you have to respect about Ben Affleck is he is not good at pretending. And so at least... in real life, I mean, not to disrespect his acting career, but he's not good at pretending. He's very honest in his interviews. He's very blunt. And to have such a prestigious career as she has to have a specific persona. And so those are contradicting realities.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point, is they could not find the way to coexist where both of them could be themselves. They had to sacrifice a lot of themselves to be with each other.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to, is love really enough in those situations? I've had gentlemen who I've met tell me that the way they met their wives, they knew they were the one because they could sit on the couch and just relax in front of them. They weren't afraid to just...
Yeah.
Sigh.
Let the button loose.
Yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let it all hang out.
And I think that's the same for women too. Some women are like, when I realized I didn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
I felt like I could be myself. And then when I did dress up, I was noticed more. And I think that's the point, is love someone for who they are, and the right one comes to you. And I am the queen of wanting to, adapt. And I had to learn. I don't need to adapt who I am. My situation is not wrong. I didn't make a wrong turn. I didn't make mistakes that led me to be alone.
Yeah.
It's more like, no, this is who you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
Because right now, who can you be but yourself, right?
So when I met Israel, when I met my spouse, I had been alone for 2 years. And I had really done a lot of self-work, a lot. And I did not want anybody. And I actually didn't want a relationship with him. I needed to grow into who I was, because I spent my entire life trying to please this person, trying to please that person, not knowing who I am, crashing and burning, lots and lots of drama. And I think I had just grown up my entire life, and I had a realization at 23, 24 that I don't know who the hell I am or what the hell I'm doing here. I'm having an existential moment, and then I just sort of needed that space. So I think it's probably hard to grow and learn. So for me, it was hard to grow and learn about me in tethered to somebody. I needed to be alone, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Some
I
people can do
understand
it.
that.
Some people can grow and be together with somebody and grow and evolve, but I'm an introvert, so I need to do that alone. But going back to what you said, don't we just love his RBF face? Like, he's got a resting Ben face, and I just love
Resting
that.
Ben face. I like that. That's a good one. And he does. And he is like, what I love about that is that's so genuine. And I bet you that's what Jennifer loves about him because she's a Leo. And that's what I look for in a partner. You know, people hype us up when you're a Leo. You're so great. Your energy. I love you. Oh my gosh, you're wonderful. Whatever. But then you get that person who sees that you're not just sunlight. They see that you're kind of dark and they kind of enjoy that part of you.
Yeah.
And they'll be really honest with that part. They're like, you're not happy all the time. And you're like, you know what? I'm not. But for Leos, we have this obligation to bring the sunlight, right? Where
Yeah.
we see someone and it's just automatic. We're just happy around them so they have that sun. But
Yeah, my daughter's that way. She's a Leo too. She's the sun. She is like literally named after the sun, and she's like a shiny girl, like spirit wise, and just beautiful.
Glitter
and just
everywhere.
like you, yes, just like you. But also, I think the RBF is hard for that energy.
it really is. Also, we carry it ourselves. So when we don't feel like putting the sunshine and the glitter on, people feel very snubbed. So you have two people, you have resting Ben face, and you have this beautiful sunlight who can't even pretend things are okay anymore. And she has to take her mask off. And imagine, you know, doing that in private when your viewers, like for instance, in our lives, you know, it's not a big stage if we mess up or if we have a hard day or if we're having trouble in our relationship. Nobody knows who we are. Imagine the whole world knowing who you are.
Oh no,
You know?
I think the reason why I was procrastinating so much on all of this is because I am not comfortable. Like, I could never be a celebrity. Like, it's not. I'm too much of an introvert. I love people. I've learned as an introvert that I love people. Love them to pieces. I'm like a battery and they are like the phone or the I don't know, whatever it is that requires battery. Like, I feel like they suck me dry, like, and then I have to go home and like recharge because
Empathic.
yeah, no, it's not good. I love it, but the exchange leaves me exhausted.
Yeah, me too. I have to agree. After any sort of event, I have to be in my room for a while alone. At
Yeah.
least 20 minutes to myself to just recharge. And I think that's the thing about celebrity life is they sacrifice their privacy. And so, you know, it's so easy to judge what you see from the outside. That's why I said, you know, we don't really know what happened inside to cause it. But if you look at just the outside alone, that's a lot of pressure for anyone, let alone a relationship. They're constantly wondering if you sneeze and they catch you on camera, they're like, oh, look, he's snarling at her. He wants,
Yeah,
you know.
But then how many like articles did they have? How many articles did they have about that very topic? Like,
Yes.
that RBF came out, and we're gonna have a whole thing about it.
One time he shut the door hard, and that was news for a week. For a week straight, I saw articles about how angry he was, clips on all the different social media of him shutting that door. And I thought to myself, seeing that, how many times in your own relationship have you had that same scenario?
We
So,
just normalize like slamming the door sometimes is like a way of just saying I'm angry. Like, that's another thing in a relationship. You have to just be like, I'm angry.
yeah, I am angry, but I love you enough to still open and shut your door. I mean, I refuse to put judgment on something that I don't understand.
Yeah.
I do try to understand situations before I look at it. But in that regard, where you're saying, you know, I'm dreaming of this and this, it's relevant for the time right now. I think that's why it's in your consciousness too, is right now we as a collective are learning boundaries with each other. We're learning how to take off the mask. Hollywood itself had its mask taken off.
Yeah.
We saw a lot of behind the scenes that was uncomfortable, to say the least, this year in Hollywood. And I think we all, like you said, you're in your bird phase where you're just like, what happens, happens. And I think we're all needing to come to that place because we have put on masks in, society to be a certain way. We've been, going with the grain here. People decide who they're going to hang out with based on silly things. And now we need to get back to authenticity. It's the highest form we can operate out of. It's the highest frequency. And when we're doing it, it's uncomfortable. It's not fun. People you thought you knew and would be with you always will back up because they don't know how to deal with that. They don't know how to have you in that energy. And so it can be lonely.
It is very lonely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I think that's what they're doing in celebrity life, going back to those two, is I think when they split, they're like, you know what, we need to be authentic to who we are. Mm-hmm. We can't find that together.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm rooting for you, Ben and Jen, if you're out there listening. Bennifer 3.0. This year's been wild for celebrities, so it's coming to an end, and that's our topic today. Yeah.
I like that topic.
Yeah, Christmas. I want to talk about, like, the holidays, and maybe not just Christmas, because there's a lot of different things going on this time of year, but this is a time of year that has been traditionally a very big struggle for me. Yeah, I'm feeling better about it this year. It's been an evolution to get to a point where I can be very content this time of year. But it's time to reflect and unpack that vibe.
Unpack. So let me ask you, if you feel safe sharing that, what was the hardest part for you that you've had to work through for this time of year?
Ooh, so my birthday is this time of year. It's like right near Christmas.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. So I have grown up in poverty. My mom was a single mom. We did have things, so I don't want to, like, put it out there like we were living in a van or anything like that. Like, we had things. She was very stable, very, like, put together. But for some reason, as a child, I was very extroverted, which is completely opposite from what I am now. But as part of that extrovert persona of mine, it was very inauthentic to who I was. And a lot of it was ruled by, like, media and materialistic things. And so obviously when the holidays come around, and not having my family together, not being financially able to have, like, this really bountiful events, it was hard. And I'm a vibey person, and that there's just something in the air around this time of year. It's like a Sunday. I don't know if you guys I call it the Sundays. I get the Sundays. It would just be a whole season of just weird vibes.
Uncomfortable. I remember that study we were talking about that I sent you from Harvard, when they were asking everybody, they did a poll and asked what were the stressors that made it really difficult. One of the ones, I think it was the second one on the list, was family. Family in general, obligations, different events that families go to, that people found themselves stressed out and anxious over having to visit family. And, I think when you grow up in an environment like you mentioned, you said you could feel that vibe. Do you think it was tied to the money situation, or were there other things going on that added to that?
Now that I'm older, I think it did have something to do with the materialistic part of the season, because obviously when you're a kid getting presents and, like, things that were bright and shiny in stores, you want them under the Christmas tree. So part of it in my youth, I know that it was tied to that. Now that I'm older, it's definitely transformed into something else, because I've realized about myself that I'm a giver. I'm not happy unless I'm giving. And that's just, like, my vibe. It's like the ethos of who I am is helping people, giving, and I don't do it perfectly, and I make mistakes a lot of the time. But I think not having something to give to people was what was missing. Like, I wanted to receive, but I also wanted to give, and I felt, that was a big part of my transformation. It was like finding out, how do I give, how do I be useful in this world?
I love that you say that, because that was my focus with the kids when they were little, was how do I make sure that they understand this part first? Because receiving, for kids comes so easily. But I also wanted them to understand the joy behind giving. And I had an aunt growing up who actually, she's the one who gave me the idea, so I can't even take credit for that. But she used to take us to the dollar store. back when things were actually $1. And she would give us $20, and that was huge for us. We're back in the 90s, we were rich. And she'd say, who's on your list? You can get them whatever you want in this store up to this amount. So we learned how to budget. We were very careful with what we bought, but we had the whole store at our disposal. We could get them anything. We could get 20 items and that would cover it, right? And I think that's where it changed for me at that point, because I was like that with too, where I didn't feel like I could give anyone anything. So I started drawing them, making drawings and putting them under the tree, that sort of thing, because I didn't have anything to give. And when she started taking all of the nieces and nephews to do this, we loved giving and we loved receiving from each other, because we knew that when we went and took that $20, we looked at everything and thought about what we could get each other and put so much thought into it, that when one of our cousins had a gift, and we knew because we went to that same store that they thought so hard and they were so meticulous with our gift, it just changed Christmas. Mm-hmm. That's what I do with my kids now. And now that they're teenagers, we're back to materialism. So we're back to the drawing board. But during that time from, 4 to 13, it was so beautiful to see how excited they were when their sibling gave them pipe cleaners, because they're artists and they love to use those,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And I agree with you. I think that perspective is everything. And regardless of how much money is in our home, if we as children can feel the weight of what our parents are feeling, then, it kind of shapes the way we see the holidays.
There's so much I'm learning about my childhood that I realized was a weight. It was part of the vibe. That was something I talk about with my therapist. She's like, maybe it wasn't your weight. Maybe you were just you're a sensitive person who could feel the vibe. And my mom was very depressed when I was growing up, stemming from her lifetime of her trauma, which was, intense. And feeling somebody who was very depressed and always struggling, and then the holidays come around, and it was very sad to see somebody who struggled throughout the year also struggle and feel guilty or stressed or being able to provide things. I think it was hard to watch somebody else struggle too during that time. I don't know, it was a whole childhood is a whole vibe, and I don't know if that had something to do with it. But I do know that people now that are grown up also struggle with this time of year. It's stressful, it brings out the depression, brings out a lot of stuff for people.
Can we even just stop for a second and talk about the obligation to visit those family members from that childhood trauma that I see a lot of? One of the things that I see most often that changed in my life was for a lot of years, the stress in my family came from having to go to this person's house and then that person's house, and knowing that these two people at this house were fighting and it was going to be weird, and we knew that it was going to be weird, or we knew someone didn't like us and we were going to have to see them. And,
oh gosh, yeah.
So that was always intense. Now you have some families that, have alcohol in that mix, and it's not a good time.
Yeah.
And Hispanic families especially will tell you that if the uncles and the aunts start playing music in Spanish and they start drinking, it's time to run and go to bed.
And, call it a night.
Something's going to go down. And so, I think one of the things that is hard is when you are raised in a culture and in a family where you are obligated to visit these people. And not doing so shows a lack of respect. Mm-hmm. And it can ostracize you. But if that's what's best for your mental health, there's the conundrum. Do I honor my family and the way it's always been? Or do I branch off, rebel, and have, put my mental health above the toxic, flow that's been there for so long?
Gosh, that I didn't even think about that. But visiting the family was actually a very difficult part, because we were the family that did not have the stuff. And a lot of my other family members were on both my mom and my dad's side, they were very stable. Maybe they had trauma, but they hid it very well and were successful. So we would always show up as the kids that got the crappy presents, and the kids that got the Like, it was a good way to rub your nose in the family hierarchy. I never even thought about it.
You don't, because your heart's pure. These things didn't even show up for me until I started like unpacking, like, why am I not feeling good going around these people? And it wasn't even, I can't even take responsibility for that because I was married at the time and we were actually about to separate and go through a divorce. And it was our last Thanksgiving as a family. And I'll never forget, he said, we've had such a rough year. We know where this is headed. Let's stop going there. Let's start a new tradition. And every Thanksgiving, this is our time. And we do it just us, no matter where we go, no matter what we do. Thanksgiving is about our family.
I like that.
Yeah. And he's a pretty great person.
Yeah.
He really is. And because we did that, it was not easy that first year. I had my phone blowing up from everybody wondering where we were and why we didn't come. Was someone sick, etc. But over the years, it's evolved where we don't even care. We don't miss anyone. We're no longer stressed, like I mentioned.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it was the first year that we were finally in a place where it was like, there's no perfection needed. Who are we doing that for anymore? We know who we are in this house. Let's just be ourselves and have a good time.
Yes, be comfortable. Yep. That's what it should be, right? That's like a time of the year that you can, or maybe that's how I've come to embrace the seasons and be like more like thriving through it. It's just, being comfortable through it all. That is so interesting. I never thought about that as like the family, because we were always the family that would go to the house, like the aunt and the uncle that have the beautiful tree and the lovely home, and we'd go and we'd show up to their Festivus. That is so interesting because, when I had when building my own family, that was huge for me. We've done our holidays together every year. People come to our home. And that was really big to me because I always did feel like very outsider-y vibe, like going to others. This was the first year that we even had Thanksgiving, like away from home, and my aunt did all the work, and I felt actually really uncomfortable, like I wasn't helping enough or whatever. But so anyhow, I struggle with the fake. I struggle with the fakeness of our society, and maybe that's why I struggle with the fakeness of the season, because it's not materialistic. It's really about like being a better part of yourself for a whole season.
I agree with you on that, and I think that's why it's so hard when people are trying to wear a mask so that people feel better. I don't know what it is. There's something about needing to make other people feel better and hide your feelings. I've noticed that a lot. It's not necessarily my thing. In fact, like you, I'm an oversharer, and sometimes I'm like, why did you tell that person that personal detail that's none of their business?
Right.
Because they asked me how I was doing, and that's how I was doing at the time.
Yeah.
But I have learned a little bit more about allowing people to just say what they need to say. And I appreciate it when someone comes up to me and, if I say, hey, how are you? And they say, I'm doing terrible, or, I'm doing fantastic for this reason, giving them their minute to say what that's about. Because that might be the first time all day or all week, all month, that someone actually cared enough to listen to how they feel and why.
Yeah. Like, you show somebody you really care. Like, it's not BS. It's a really true human connection. And imagine like what that would do for somebody who maybe did lose somebody or is struggling with loss or depression or other things during the holidays, finances, being on the brink of ruin, all of these things that could be happening to somebody. And then some. And imagine if somebody is just like there with you, present, and they like actually cared.
For just a moment, that can make the difference with anyone, And I love how this topic has kind of flowed with, this is the hardship and this is how we can come together and make it a little less hard for someone else.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And one of the other things that I wanted to mention is the shifts in ceremony was another thing they said. The health habits.
Oh, yeah.
And, that's what it means by the shift in ceremony. So if you are used to waking up and going for a run at 6 a.m. with the sunrise, and with the shift in time, now there is no sun, and you're waiting longer, or you went for a walk at night at, 5 or 6? That's night now for us here. It's pitch black by 6 p.m. It does change your routine. It changes where you might go for your fitness and for other things. And that can cause depression in people when their routine is so disruptive. You know, the foods we eat right now are very rich and fat and greasy and yummy and so delicious.
Yeah, I was like, are there snickerdoodles on that run? Like,
That'd be
pumpkin
me.
spice run?
Biscochitos in my pocket, you know.
Right? Yeah, no, I love the pumpkin spice season. Yeah, I love the flavors.
That'd be me. Just every mile. Yay, I'm
Yeah.
going to reward myself with a cookie. No, but really, it's when we're looking at how can we better have better mental health in a time where there are so many factors really attacking it. You know, between people being inauthentic to having to see people that you don't want to see, not being in the space yet, or maybe not having anyone to see. There's so many different things to take you off track.
Yeah.
But what I feel if we focus on is what makes us feel good, right? Like you mentioned cleaning in the beginning. If clearing your space is important, then clear your calendar so you can do it. It's not going to be easy. It might be complicated. Saying no might be frustrating and not feel very good, but you will at the end maybe when you have that clean space.
Yeah.
You know, I think it is important to put your health first, even if it's frustrating. You know, it is going to be busy. If you know that, then force yourself to eat a bowl of oatmeal in the morning if you're not allergic. You know?
Yeah.
You know, those kinds of things, feeding your vessel, you know, fueling yourself up, being intentional. Being intentional about what you're intaking and when. Another thing I wanted to mention is when it comes to eating, this is something I've been doing a lot more, conscious eating. Instead of picking apart what I'm eating, I'm paying attention to how I feel before I eat something. So a good example is if I'm in a room, we're talking about these topics and there's water on the table and we have such beautiful love coming out of our mouths. Yes, we're talking about hard subjects, but we're doing this with love and hope attached and how can we make things better. I have no problem drinking that water, right? Because I'm in a good space. But if I'm not feeling very good, if I'm at my lowest and I'm eating a hamburger, I notice that I don't feel better afterwards the same way I would if I was in a good mood.
Yeah.
It feels like it sits different in my stomach.
Yeah, I get that feeling too.
And I'm not happy, whether it's a hamburger or water, it doesn't really matter. If I'm taking something in my body when I'm feeling anxious, stressed, sad,
Nervous, anxious, I do a lot of those emotional eating too. Emotional eating is a problem for me.
I think what it does too is you get all the bad.
Yeah.
And I think you actually get rid of the good in the food. I can't prove that by anything, but it does feel like that in my own body, I've noticed.
It would make sense because there is just something about emotional eating for me that I've always struggled with, and I think it is doing the opposite of what it feels like it's doing. I feel like when I'm eating emotionally that I'm taking away the anxiety, taking away the depression. Like I'm focusing on another sensation that's just food is so delicious and I'm like, oh my gosh, but then I realize like I'm binging on it because it's so good that I'm not really truly working through the like emotions that I'm trying to like escape from. But anyhow, that's a topic. Emotional eating. Whew, we should have a podcast
That's another
on
one
that.
we'll do.
Yeah, that one is, yeah.
But I think that goes with the holiday season, you know, instead of being afraid to eat food, maybe deciding that if you're feeling stressed or anxious, why not get a plate for later when you go home? You know, I mean, and I know how that sounds, but I'm thinking if you're in a position in a place with people that make you feel uncomfortable to the point where when you eat, you're going to feel nervous and it's not going to sit right if you have the problem I'm talking about. If not, just ignore it.
You didn't get the RBF because of that, though. You got the RBF because I was thinking of, what is that when you're enabling? Maybe it's the season that I feel enabled to just eat as many snickerdoodles as I want.
Too.
And I love like all the flavors of the season that I feel enabled to gain 10 pounds and like have to deal with it later because it's the season to do that.
Well, I refuse to be a health nut who's like, yeah, you shouldn't try to gain weight. You should try to stay a certain weight. But I think it's all about just enjoying yourself and not overindulging. You know when you overindulge.
I do.
You know when it's time to drink a glass of water instead. I know when it's time to do that, and I'm so guilty. I'll eat a whole pie by myself if someone doesn't take it away. If I feel like it, So sometimes it is about discipline.
Yeah, no, and maybe that's another thing too, because it isn't like an enabling season. Like it's enabling you to engage in some of my bad habits of like eating things that I know I shouldn't be having. And indulging in it too, and to a point where I'm like, oh, I know I'm gaining weight right now. I know I'm like not on my health kick right now, and it's the season to do that. So maybe there's some enabling going on there.
And
I don't even know how we got. So I always get stuck on food. I'm like, how did we get on the topic of food?
Because it affects people and
Yes,
their
the mood,
moods.
yes.
Because when the more food you have in your system, you feel good for a little bit, but then when it's gone, it's just like any other addiction where you're like, now that happy, full feeling's gone, and now I'm empty, and it's not, and it's a state of mind, right? It's just, but it does affect you.
It does.
It affects
What
you.
you eat absolutely affects you.
And for a lot of people, they'll go specifically with what, but to me, it's the environment in which you consume. So like I mentioned, I could not eat around the family I had been in, my giant family, because it was always so tense. There were always two people who were at odds, and I am very sensitive, so I pick up on a lot of that, and I could feel it. And so eating in that environment just made me hold the weight. So for me personally, that was it. Or my stomach would tighten so much I could not eat, because it was just so tense and so stressed in that environment. And I'd force myself to eat, same result, right? As I'd gain weight and I didn't know where it was coming from. So now this year and the years prior, I just stopped thinking about it in that way of I need to eat because it's this. I just let myself eat when I felt good. And it's been a process. It's taken time. It wasn't just like, oh, this is how you do it overnight. But I just started, kind of like they call microdosing with medication. I started doing that with meals during the holidays.
Okay.
Make myself tiny little meals of food that I liked, and then did things along the way. And I learned that I did it when I felt happy. So I didn't eat with everybody. Sometimes I'd sit with everybody and visit while they ate if I was stressed.
Yeah.
But I made a plate for myself for later so that I was still eating what I wanted, still enjoyed it, but in a time where I could enjoy it and it'd be enough rather than, oh my gosh, this tastes so good, but I'm going through it because I don't like the environment I'm in. So I'm kind of using that to kind of pad myself from all the stress and uncomfortable situations.
This is going to be a huge topic for next year because I am really going to dig into and unpack food and diets and things like that because while I said I wasn't successful, I actually did do a metabolic reset this year and it was actually amazing, and I lost 20 pounds in like a month. And I mean, the effects of it have been kind of not like lasting through this season because I, again, like the snickerdoodle truffles and all of the things.
Every time you mention them.
We went on vacation to California and it was like, California is so delicious out there. There's food everywhere, anything you want. So the metabolic reset was really interesting though because it cut out a lot of the things that you shouldn't have. No sugar for a month, no caffeine, and I actually did that part.
You did no caffeine?
I did no caffeine for a month, and I actually lost a lot of weight. So I shouldn't say I wasn't successful. Again, back to the vision board, there were a lot of things I was surprised about that came to fruition. But I am going to unpack it this next year because when I did that and I subtracted things like sugar, caffeine, all of my comfort foods, and I found these other foods to be really, really nurturing and delicious, I felt amazing. And there was such a psychology behind that hypo eating, just like for comfort, emotional, based off of how you feel. It was very regimented, very scheduled, and everything felt like very like organized in my life in a weird way. It, again, back to the psychology. I need more data. I need more data on that. So
She'll be researching that this year.
Yeah, so we'll be having topics about that.
I love that.
Podcast.
I would love to also unpack next year the Ayurvedic body, because when you know what foods make you feel what based on your body type and where you're at, that helps as well. And I wonder how that would fit into what you're talking about.
Yeah, so I think it's good, like that we're kind of we're wrapping up this topic on the season, because food is such a big part of the season as well. That we're wrapping up the topic on food, because I think that is going to be a big conversation that we're going to have in the coming year.
Yes.
Just
I love
psychology behind it, on all of the things. Like, it'll be a science experiment. I'm going to bring you all with me.
I like that, because we get to be on the journey with you, cheer you on through your journey. This next year, I think for me, I'm going to learn how to be a little bit more selfish, forgive me.
As you should be.
Which is hard for me, because I am a people pleaser. I love my kids and I like to put them first, and that's not going to change. But, you know, I do a lot for the community, and I love doing it. And I do a lot for my friends, and I'm not going to stop doing those things. I just think I need to prioritize where I put myself in that. And usually I'm like, let me wake up, give God my first, my kids, you know, my work, my friends, everybody. And if there's anything left at the end of the day, that's for Jenna, right? And that's not working anymore. So it's time to switch the order a little bit.
I'm so excited to see how this develops and how we end up talking about it and some of the successes you find there, because I think a lot of people can relate to that. Like, everybody else first, you last. That's actually why I stay up late, because that's like that half hour that's just mine. And I end up waking up tired, and it starts a whole... Let's unpack that and find out more, because I cannot wait to see what you discover in that space.
I love that, and how we both have two different struggles that we're working on at the same time. And we'll get to give each other the benefit of that, so that we can both grow in those two areas, even though that's not our target. I love it so much. If any of you have something you would love us to talk about or unpack for the new year, please put it in the comments. We want to make sure we're giving you what you like too.
Yeah, and we also want to hear about your vibes on the season, your thoughts and experiences. Leave them in the comment section. I am so glad to have you all here with us. This has been so fun. More to come in the new year.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yes.
Okay, everybody. Well, thank you for coming with us to this episode and unpacking some of the holiday horrors.
And successes.
Or
at least
yes.
let's focus on those.
Amen to that. I think we are really hard on ourselves, and I think that is how we wrap this up, right? Is remembering that, you know, it's an experience for a reason. The good, the bad, the ugly, the extraordinary. Every piece of what we're experiencing is the point. So let's not try to have only happiness. Let's embrace some of the hard as well, because that's what makes life beautiful.
Yeah, be gentle on each other out there and on yourselves.
Bye.
Bye.